Executive Privileges. Chapter 1. Welcome to the Office. Part 1. Ling Hua did not hire secretaries based on looks. At least, that was what she told herself as she stood behind the floor-to-ceiling glass of her corner office, staring down at the 23rd floor of Hua International like a queen surveying her domain. Everything below moved because she allowed it to. Every salary, every promotion, every quiet firing slid across her desk because she said so. Order, efficiency, control. That was the spine of her company and her life. So when her assistant knocked and announced, "Your new secretary is here, Ms. Ling," Ling was already irritated. HR had insisted she needed someone younger, someone adaptable, someone who could keep up with her impossible schedule. Ling suspected that meant someone cheap and eager. What she did not expect was... The door opened. Ling turned, and then she froze. The girl, no, woman, standing just inside the doorway, looked like a mistake. She was too soft for this place, too pretty, too bright. She wore a simple cream blouse tucked into a modest pencil skirt, hair pulled back into a low ponytail that exposed a long, graceful neck. Her face wasn't aggressively beautiful in the way models were, it was gentler than that. Big eyes, full lips pressed together nervously, hands folded in front of her like she was afraid to touch anything without permission. She looked like she belonged in a university hallway, not the executive floor of one of the most ruthless corporations in the city. Ling's first thought was sharp and uncharitable. She won't last a week. Her second thought, unwelcome and irritating, followed immediately. HR must be blind or very bold. "Ms. Ling," the girl said, bowing her head slightly, "I'm Orm. Thank you for giving me this opportunity." Her voice was soft, not weak, just careful, as if she measured every word before letting it out. Ling's gaze flicked down, clinical and assessing. Slender waist, long legs, the kind of body that would attract attention whether she wanted it or not, the kind of body that caused problems in an office like this. Ling exhaled slowly through her nose. "You're young," she said flatly. Orm straightened. "Yes, ma'am, I'm 20. Too young, Ling thought, too untested. "And your qualifications?" Ling asked, already reaching for the thin folder on her desk. Orm didn't flinch. "Business administration degree, top of my class, internship experience in 2 mid-sized firms, fluent in 3 languages. Ling skimmed the paper anyway. It confirmed what Orm said. And still, something felt off. On paper, she was acceptable. In reality, she looked like temptation wrapped in innocence. Ling closed the folder with a decisive snap. "You were not my first choice," Ling said coolly. "This position requires discretion, long hours, and loyalty. I don't tolerate mistakes." Orm nodded quickly. "I understand. I won't disappoint you." Ling's eyes narrowed slightly. "People always said that." "Good," Ling replied, "because I don't give second chances." She turned back to her desk, already dismissing the girl in her mind. "You'll start immediately. My schedule is synced to your tablet. If you're late, unprepared, or emotional..." "I won't be," Orm said, a little too fast. Ling paused. She looked back. Orm met her gaze directly this time. There was something there, something steady beneath the nerves. Determination, perhaps, or stubbornness. Ling huffed quietly. "We'll see." By noon, Ling was already regretting not listening to her instincts. Orm moved through the office like she belonged there. Not confidently, not yet, but competently. She learned fast, asked the right questions, took notes obsessively, anticipated needs before they were voiced. And she watched Ling, not openly, not in a way that could be called unprofessional. But Ling felt it anyway, the subtle awareness of being observed, like a soft pressure at the base of her spine. It irritated her. It intrigued her. At lunch, Ling stepped out of her office to grab a file from the printer and stopped short. Orm was leaning over a coworker's desk, pointing at a spreadsheet on the screen. The angle of her body pulled her blouse slightly taut across her back. Nothing inappropriate, nothing intentional. Still, Ling's jaw tightened. The co-worker, a junior analyst, laughed at something Orm said. His gaze lingered a second too long. Ling cleared her throat sharply. Orm startled, immediately straightening. "Ms. Ling, I was just—" "Back to your desk," Ling said, tone clipped. The analyst flushed and spun back to his screen. Orm nodded and retreated quickly, cheeks faintly pink. Ling watched her go, irritation simmering beneath her skin. Unnecessary distraction, she told herself. That was all. That afternoon, Ling took a call in her office, the door half open. "I don't want a modern wife," Ling said, voice low, impatient. "I don't need a partner who competes with me. I need someone who understands her role, someone who keeps the home, keeps herself available, and doesn't make things complicated." She pinched the bridge of her nose. "Yes, traditional. Is that such a crime?" Outside, Orm paused mid-step. She hadn't meant to eavesdrop. She'd been carrying files, walking past, when Ling's words reached her, sharp, unapologetic, heavy with conviction. A traditional wife. Orm's heart skipped painfully. She stood there for half a second longer than she should have, absorbing every word like a secret meant only for her. Then she walked on, pulse racing. That night, Orm lay awake in her small apartment staring at the ceiling. Ling Hua was colder than she'd imagined. Sharper, more intimidating, and impossibly magnetic. Orm pressed her palm to her chest, feeling her heartbeat. She'd admired Ling from afar for months. Articles, interviews, whispered stories of the CEO who never smiled and never lost. Getting hired had felt like fate finally opening a door. Hearing Ling talk about the kind of wife she wanted had felt like destiny slamming it wide open. Traditional, loyal, untouched. Orm swallowed. She had never been with anyone. Not because she couldn't, but because she'd been waiting. For something that felt right. For someone who felt worth it. She closed her eyes. "I can be that," she thought quietly. "I'll show you." 2 weeks later, Ling announced a business conference out of town. Orm prepared everything flawlessly, flights, schedules, presentations. Ling barely acknowledged her beyond curt nods and instructions. At the hotel bar that evening, after a long day of meetings, Ling ordered a drink and loosened her tie slightly. Orm sat beside her, posture proper, hands folded around a glass of water. "You did well today," Ling said finally, eyes still on her drink. Orm blinked. "Thank you." Ling studied her from the corner of her eye, the way she leaned in just a little, the way her knee brushed Ling's under the bar, so light it could have been accidental. Ling's lips curved faintly. "You're attractive," Ling said bluntly. Orm stiffened. "Ma'am?" Ling turned fully toward her now, calm, assessing. "Don't misunderstand. I'm not interested in anything serious with someone like you." Orm's throat tightened. "But," Ling continued, voice low, pragmatic, "I value efficiency. If you turn out to be useful, I'm willing to compensate you appropriately, discreetly." Orm stared at her. The implication settled heavy between them. Orm's face flushed, not with shame, but with something sharper. "I don't want that," she said quietly. Ling raised an eyebrow. "You should think carefully before refusing." Orm met her gaze, heart pounding. "I don't want to be something you use and throw away. I want more." Ling let out a short laugh. "You're dreaming." Orm smiled then, small, steady, fearless. "If you want me," Orm said softly, "then that means we're in a relationship, and relationships lead to marriage." Ling's smile vanished. "Then I won't touch you," Ling said flatly. Orm's eyes shone. "We'll see."
Part 2. Ling Hua did not like being challenged. She especially did not like being challenged by someone who smiled while doing it. The rest of the conference passed without incident, but the tension between them sat thick and unspoken. Orm remained professional, painfully so. She took notes, passed documents, spoke only when spoken to. No teasing, no lingering touches. not even the accidental brushes that had been happening before. It should have relieved Ling. Instead, it irritated her. By the time they returned to the hotel room assigned to Ling, her room, which Orm was only supposed to drop files into, Ling's patience was already thin. "Leave the folder on the desk," Ling said, loosening her blazer. Orm did as instructed, then hesitated. "Ms. Ling?" Ling didn't look up. "What?" "You offered me something earlier," Orm said carefully, "and I refused. I just want to be clear. I wasn't offended because you wanted me. I was offended because you didn't think I could be more." Ling's hands stilled. She turned slowly. Orm stood straight, chin lifted, eyes steady despite the tremor in her breath. There was no innocence in her expression now, only resolve. Ling studied her for a long moment, then let out a quiet, humorless chuckle. "You think you know what more means," Ling said, "but you don't. You're young. You're untested. You confuse fantasy with reality." Orm swallowed. "Then test me." Silence stretched. Ling stepped closer, stopping just short of touching her. The air between them felt charged, tight enough to snap. "You want to be a wife?" Ling asked softly. "You don't even know what that costs." "I'm willing to pay it," Orm replied. Ling's gaze dropped, to Orm's lips, her throat, the gentle rise and fall of her chest. Desire stirred, sharp and unwelcome. She stepped back abruptly. "Go," Ling said, "before you embarrass yourself." Orm didn't move for a second. Then she bowed her head slightly. "Good night, Ms. Ling." She turned and left. Ling stood alone in the room, pulse racing, jaw clenched. Dangerous, she thought. Very dangerous. Back at the office, Ling doubled down on distance. She worked Orm harder, longer hours, impossible deadlines. She corrected her sharply in meetings, dismissed her praise with silence. Orm endured it all. She didn't cry, didn't complain, didn't flirt. She adapted. And that, more than anything, unsettled Ling. One afternoon, Ling overheard laughter outside her office. Orm was standing near the break area, a male colleague leaning casually against the counter beside her. He was saying something animated, clearly enjoying himself. Orm smiled politely, too politely, but she didn't step away. Ling's chest tightened. She didn't like the way he looked at Orm. She didn't like that Orm let him. "Orm!" Ling called sharply. Orm turned instantly. "Yes, Ms. Ling." "Inside." The colleague straightened awkwardly and retreated. Orm followed Ling into the office, closing the door behind her. Ling rounded on her. "What do you think you're doing?" Orm blinked. "Talking?" "With him," Ling snapped. "During work hours?" "He asked me about a report," Orm said calmly. "I answered." Ling scoffed. "Don't play innocent. I saw the way you were standing." Orm's eyes darkened slightly. "Standing." "Yes," Ling said, anger flaring hot and irrational. "Laughing, smiling, showing yourself off." Orm stared at her, incredulous. "You're angry because someone talked to me?" "I'm angry because you're acting like—" Ling stopped herself, then finished coldly. "Like a distraction." Orm's face flushed, not with embarrassment, but with anger. "A distraction?" she repeated softly. Ling's voice dropped. "If that's the kind of attention you want, maybe I misjudged you." Something snapped. Orm stepped forward and slapped Ling across the face. The sound echoed sharp and final. Ling froze. So did Orm. For a heartbeat, neither of them moved. Then Orm's hand trembled as she lowered it. "I won't let you talk to me like that," Orm said, voice shaking. "You don't get to want me and insult me in the same breath." She turned toward the door. Ling moved without thinking. She grabbed Orm's wrist, spun her back, and kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't careful. It was sudden and furious and full of everything Ling had been refusing to admit. Orm gasped, startled, then stiffened beneath her. Ling released her just as quickly, breath ragged, eyes burning. "Get out!" Ling said hoarsely. Orm stood frozen, lips parted, eyes wide. Then she nodded once and left without another word. Ling sank back against her desk, heart hammering. "You've crossed a line," she thought. And worse, she hadn't regretted it. That night, Ling didn't sleep. She replayed the kiss again and again, the shock in Orm's eyes, the way her body had fit so easily against Ling's, the way she'd tasted like something sweet and forbidden. By morning, Ling had made a decision. She would end this, cleanly, professionally, before it became something she couldn't control. When Orm arrived the next day, Ling summoned her immediately. Orm entered the office with her usual composure, but Ling noticed the faint tension in her shoulders. Ling didn't offer her a seat. "What happened yesterday," Ling said flatly, "was inappropriate." Orm nodded. "Yes." "It won't happen again," Ling continued. "You'll maintain professional boundaries. If you can't, I'll have HR reassign you." Orm looked at her steadily. "And if you can't?" Ling bristled. "I'm not the one who slapped their superior." Orm's lips curved faintly. "No, you're the one who kissed her." Ling's jaw tightened. Orm took a breath. "I don't regret it," she said quietly. "Do you?" Ling didn't answer. Silence stretched. Finally, Ling said, "You're dismissed." Orm turned to leave, then paused at the door. "I meant what I said," Orm added softly. "If you want me, you don't get to pretend it means nothing." Then she was gone. Ling closed her eyes. The line had already been crossed, and both of them knew it.
Part 3. Ling Hua prided herself on discipline. She had built her life on it, brick by brick, choice by choice. She did not indulge impulses. She did not blur lines. She did not let emotions cloud judgment. And yet, for 3 consecutive days after the kiss, she avoided looking directly at Orm. It was ridiculous. Orm, for her part, behaved exactly as Ling had ordered. She arrived early, left late, spoke only when necessary. Her work was flawless. Her posture was immaculate, her expression unreadable. Too unreadable. Ling found herself watching her when she thought no one noticed. The way Orm listened during meetings, the way she held her tablet close to her chest, the way her mouth tightened when Ling dismissed her without acknowledgement. She was obeying, and somehow that made it worse. On the 4th day, Ling called her in again. Orm stepped into the office and closed the door behind her. She stood straight, hands clasped, eyes forward. "You wanted to see me, Ms. Ling?" Ling leaned back in her chair, fingers steepled. "You've been restrained." Orm blinked once. "I'm doing what you asked." "Yes," Ling said. "And why is that?" Orm hesitated. "Because you're my boss." Ling's eyes sharpened. "Only that?" Orm swallowed. "Because I respect you." Ling held her gaze, searching for something. Fear, maybe, or resentment. She found neither. Instead, she saw patience. Dangerous, deliberate patience. Ling exhaled slowly. "Sit." Orm obeyed. Ling rose from her chair and moved around the desk, stopping directly in front of her, close enough that Orm had to tilt her head slightly to meet her eyes. "You're not subtle," Ling said quietly. Orm's lips curved faintly. "Neither are you." Ling's mouth tightened. "You think this is a game?" "No," Orm said. "I think this is a negotiation." Ling laughed once, short and sharp. "You have nothing I need." Orm looked up at her, unflinching. "You said you want a wife who understands her role, someone loyal, someone who doesn't make things complicated." Ling said nothing. "I can be simple," Orm continued softly. "If that's what you want." Ling's gaze dropped unbidden to Orm's lips, then to the curve of her throat, then back to her eyes. "And what do you want?" Ling asked. Orm answered without hesitation. "You." The word landed heavy between them. Ling straightened abruptly. "You're dismissed." Orm stood at once, but this time she didn't rush to the door. "I'll keep doing my job," Orm said, "until you decide what you really want." She left. Ling sank back into her chair, pulse pounding. "This ends now," she told herself. The next business trip came sooner than expected. A 2-day regional conference, mandatory attendance. Ling had no choice but to bring her secretary. Orm handled the arrangements as efficiently as ever. When Ling reviewed the hotel booking, she paused. "One room?" Ling asked, voice flat. Orm nodded. "The hotel is fully booked. That was the only executive suite available." Ling stared at the screen. "You should have informed me." "I'm informing you now," Orm said calmly. "If you want, I can sleep on the couch." Ling's jaw clenched. This was a test, and Ling hated that she knew it. "Fine," Ling said. "But this changes nothing." Orm inclined her head. "Of course." The room was quiet when they arrived that night. Too quiet. Ling dropped her bag by the door and loosened her collar, exhaustion settling into her bones. She glanced toward the bathroom. "I'll shower first," she said. Orm nodded. "I'll review tomorrow's schedule." Ling shut the bathroom door behind her and braced her hands on the sink. "Get it together," she told herself. The water was hot, grounding. She let it run over her shoulders, trying to wash away the tension that had been coiled inside her for weeks. When she emerged, towel around her waist, steam still clinging to her skin. She stopped. Orm was on the bed, not sprawled, not posed obscenely, just waiting. She wore one of Ling's spare shirts, too big on her, sleeves slipping down her arms. Her hair was loose, her expression calm, intent. Ling's breath caught. "This is inappropriate," Ling said, voice hoarse. Orm met her gaze. "Tell me to leave." Ling didn't. Orm stood slowly. "You said you wouldn't touch me." "I said I wouldn't if it meant marriage," Ling replied. Orm took a step closer. "And does it?" Ling's restraint cracked, not all at once, but in splinters. She reached out, gripping Orm's chin, tilting her face up. "You don't understand what you're offering." Orm's hands trembled slightly as they fisted in the fabric of the shirt. "Then teach me." Ling kissed her. This time it was slower, deeper, claiming. Orm melted into it, breath hitching, hands clinging to Ling like she'd been waiting her whole life for permission. Ling broke the kiss and rested her forehead against Orm's. "This doesn't make you my wife." Orm nodded, eyes bright. "I know. And it doesn't change who's in control." "I want you in control," Orm whispered. That was what undid her. Ling guided Orm back onto the bed, movements deliberate, commanding. She made Orm look at her, made her listen, made her understand what it meant to give herself over, not just her body, but her trust. When it was over, Orm lay against her, quiet and pliant, breath evening out. Ling stared at the ceiling, chest tight. She had crossed another line, and she wasn't sure she wanted to go back. Orm shifted slightly, fingers brushing Ling's side. "This means something to me." Ling closed her eyes. "Don't make demands." Orm smiled softly. "I'm not. I'm making promises." Ling didn't respond, but she didn't pull away either. In the morning, Ling was all business again. Orm dressed without comment. They spoke only of schedules and meetings. No one would have guessed what had happened between them hours earlier. As they checked out, Ling paused. "This stays between us," she said quietly. Orm nodded. "Of course." Ling hesitated, then added, "You'll continue to behave appropriately at work." Orm met her gaze. "I always do." Ling frowned. "What does that mean?" Orm smiled, slow, knowing. "It means I know exactly where I stand." Ling turned away, unsettled. She didn't realize it yet, but Orm had just taken her first real step,